everyone, thanks for joining me on another one of my journeys. Today I will be talking about what summer was like when I was a young girl growing up in Jamaica. Our summer enjoyment began on the last day of school, and that was a day that we really look forward to because on that last day we would have our class party and we didn't have to wear our uniforms. We were allowed to wear our regular clothes. At the party, we would play games, we would sing songs, we would be playing with our friends in class, and we had cake and ice cream. After dismissal, we would be running after our friends, trying to give them what we call last lick, and it was just fun all the way home. I remember the first few days after summer break, sometimes I would go to work with my stepfather, and sometimes we would be home alone. One summer, I went to White House in Westmoreland, and I remember the house I went to, it wasn't too far from the beach, and in the mornings we would get up very early, pack our bags and head to the beach, and we'd stay there for the entire day. I remember sometimes 6 o'clock we'd just be going home, but that was a very good experience. It was something that I enjoyed. And another thing I look forward to was VBS, that is Vocational Bible School at the Bethabara Moravian Church. People who came into the island on mission trip, they would keep vocational Bible school for the children in the community. And I remember they would also give us clothes, shoes, food, and school supplies. But the best thing about summer was being at my grandmother's house, because even when I didn't live with her anymore, me and my sister would go back and spend the summer at her house. Summer is pimento season, and people who had a lot of pimento trees, they would break the branches and people would be on their property shelling pimento for days. I remember my grandmother had a lot of pimento trees, and sometimes she would break some of the trees, and sometimes she would get men come in and break the taller trees. And I remember we would be there days shelling pimento also. I remember what some of the people used to do. They would break their trees on one day and we would go and help, and then on another day we would break our trees and they would come and help. And I remember Master John Francis, he had a lot of pimento trees because it seemed like some of the land he probably leased them and they had the pimento trees on them. So he would get a lot of people to come and shell pimento for him. And I remember we would go and we would get 50 cents per quart for the pimento, and people who shell really fast would get paid by the kerosene tin. And talking about kerosene tin, when you think about it, kerosene oil didn't come in those tins. I know of them to contain cooking oil, so I don't know why people call them kerosene tin. But anyway, back to the pimento. Yes, so people would get paid by the kerosene tin. And I remember when they pick all that pimento, they would put it on zinc to dry, and when you pick up some of it and you put it to your ear and you shake it, if you hear the smaller seed inside shaking, then you know it is dry enough. And some people who had those big barbecue, they would put the pimento on it and dry it. When they have all that dry pimento, they would put it in some big bags, and people would come and buy them. Sometimes they would take them out to Asia Square and truck would come and buy them. And even the bush, they would tie up the bush and truck would come in and buy all the bushes. So in no way you didn't lose, because you get paid for the pimento and you get paid for the bushes. And for the ripe pimento, they didn't dry those. I remember they would separate the dry pimento and keep them. Sometimes my grandmother would put them either in a quart bottle or a flask bottle with rum. And if you have belly ache, she would give you a half teaspoon or a teaspoon of that rum. And believe me, the belly ache would disappear. And besides the fun of shelling the pimento, we were making money. So when school reopened, we could buy ourselves some extra exercise books, pencils, and sharpeners. And back in those days, summer seemed so long, because when you get your school shoes and your school bag, you'd go and try on the shoes 50 times, and you'd keep looking at the bag, and it seemed as if summer would never end. I can remember when I went back to school, my classmates were so tall because they had grown so much over the summer. And overall, summer was just fun. I remember we had a donkey. Her name was Doris. And we would pad up Doris, put on her hampers, and take her all the way to Bush to look mangoes. And even when the hampers were full On our way back, we would still stop at a mango tree, pick some mangoes, sit under the tree and eat them. There were just so many mango trees, and they were loaded. So sometimes you look at it and it's just hard to pass a mango tree because the mangoes were so pretty. And talking about Bossa Bush, at that time we had to be like 10 and my sister probably 11 or 12. And maybe two of my cousins, we were all the same age. And Bossa Bush is a far way from Sweetland. And we weren't afraid. People weren't hurting people like now. So we could go to the bush by ourselves, we get back home safe. So when you really think of it, we really had some good times and we were able to enjoy ourselves as children because we didn't think anyone would hurt us. So we felt free. We went to Mango Bush, we go and we look stinking tour, we go and we pick mountain guava, or we go and we look rose apple. Sometimes our grandmother would send us back to Bosso to pick gungo peas. And we didn't think nothing would happen to us because it's not like now when you hear this and you hear that. Life was really enjoyable. And talking about the donkey, I remember we didn't have water at the house. So we would take Doris out to Sweetland at the standpipe. We would put buckets and bottles in the hamper and we would go out there and fill them. I remember when we filled them, sometimes we couldn't lift them up. But I remember Miss Lynn had a shop out there and most times men would be out there hanging out and they would look out for us, so they would come and take up the heavy buckets and the bottles, put them into the hamper, and we would just put the rope in the hamper and say Jack, and Doris would just walk and go home. Sometimes we stop at a mango tree. When we reach home, Doris is there under a mango tree that we would unload her. And most times we get there, my grandmother would empty off the hampers and would take Doris and tie her out to eat grass. And those were just really good days that I really enjoyed. And you will always hear me keep saying this, that I am very happy I grew up in Jamaica, because the experiences I gained there, I'm sure I would not have gained them anywhere else in the world. Anyway, I will be wrapping up here. As always, thanks for watching and please remember to subscribe. Thank you.